what did it come down to? And I know Tim told me that you talked at the end of the season, so it wasn't a surprise to him. But what did it come down to on the decision with Tim?
Yeah, I mean, for one, Tim Anderson, what he's meant to the organization, there's not enough time to really go through the impact that he's made both in the organization, the city, his teammates, the game. He's a guy that was drafted, went through the system, and performed at the major league level. So when you come to a decision like that, certainly it needs to be as thorough as it possibly can. There was a lot of factors involved. The conversation with TA was difficult. It was for me personally, just because I know how much he has meant. He is my son's favorite player as well, so not only was TA disappointed in me, but so was my son. But with where the direction that we're going, unfortunately, a decision on a TA situation had to come when it did, which was, pretty much immediately after the World Series. We've got a lot of holes to fill on our club. We had 101 wins last year, so there's 101 losses. Big difference. And so to have to fill so many holes, both in the near term and long term, it felt like it was the best decision to decline that option. We are open to bringing TA back, but he's earned the right to see if there's a better opportunity for him. We certainly wish TA very well. We've got great memories with him. I know he shares the same sentiment. Wish him luck, and we'll stay in touch.
Did he seem amenable? Obviously he's going to pursue the open market. Like you said, he's earned that. But do you seem amenable to talk to you guys if something doesn't fit what he wants? Yeah,
I think so. I know that once you make him aware, once I made him aware that we weren't picking up the option, I know that he was digesting that. But Pedro talked to him shortly thereafter, and they had a really good conversation. They've built a really strong relationship. So, I'm sure there's going to be a healing process that needs to take place a little bit, just because his life's changed fairly dramatically with this decision. But he's part of the White Sox family, and I want TA to go out there and do well. I really genuinely do. And if that's with someone else, I'll be rooting for him. And we'll see where the offseason goes for him.
If he made devil's advocate, you have so many holes to fill. You just added one hole to fill. You could have also said, let's bring him back so we don't have to worry about that for a year or half a year if you traded him. So does that make any sense to you? Well, you just added one more.
Yeah, you've got to find a way to allocate your resources, and figure out the best way to do that. We've got a lot of pitching holes to fill. Obviously, we've got the middle infield to take care of, and I'd really like to focus on our defense. I think that's going to be a large focus for us this offseason and certainly going into the season. And, I want it to be an attractive place for pitchers wants to pitch. So I'm set out to do that.
Was it made clear during your conversations that maybe shortstop's not his best position moving forward?
That wasn't part of our conversation. It wasn't. Obviously, he's got a self-evaluation, and then there's other organizations that have their evaluations, whether it becomes a defense or offensive potential. But yeah, we didn't dive into where he is the best fit defensively. He's a very athletic player. He has the ability to obviously play some shortstop. He could very easily go over to second base, and I also believe he could play in the outfield too. So he's versatile. He's going to have options, and I do wish him well.
How close is Colson, you think? There's schools of thought where you can bring the guy up and kind of let him learn in the majors, even if it's a full season where it's not his best, but he's learning, or there's other school that he's got to go through each stop. Obviously, he's shown to be a dynamic talent who's still growing and still has stuff to learn. 170 plate appearances at AA, right, is his highest right now. So how close do you see him?
Well, for one, he's been the talk of the Arizona Fall League, not just the Chicago White Sox talking, other organizations as well, and that just speaks to his potential and how much he's getting better every time he goes out there and plays. I don't want to set limitations on a Colson Montgomery. He does seem like he's a guy that is very unique and has ability to be a special player at the major league level. He's finishing strong in the Fall League. Really hope for a productive off season out of him. He's still growing into his body, but he's played a pretty pretty solid shortstop here in the fall league. He's obviously got some zone awareness. He's got a hit tool. He's got some power he's tapping into. So he's got a chance to be a well-rounded player. So I don't want to have the expectation for Colson to think that he's going to be our opening day shortstop.
Right.
But I also don't want to cap anything for him either, because it's important for him to stay motivated, be ready to go in spring training, because who knows how 2024 unravels for him.
Chris, you mentioned the holes that you guys got to fill, also the direction you guys are going in. What direction is that, and are you approaching this offseason with the intent of competing in the AL Central next year?
Well, it's piece by piece. It really is, and I'm set out to really improve our defensive play. We'll allow our pitchers to attack the zone and be more efficient. I do believe that we need to become more athletic. That speaks to the improved defense, we hope, and obviously running the bases and taking extra bases, those types of things. The style of play, we're looking for players that understand what it takes to be on a winning ball club, and that comes to that starts with their approach to the day-to-day basis, being in the right place at the right time, on the field, and more or less being some baseball players that are going out there working together and competing. We've got a talented group, there's no question. I don't like our team, and we've got to make some adjustments so we improve for 2024.
You don't like your team, you said. So with that in mind, with that philosophy, where do you begin? I mean, do you have any untouchables like Cease and Robert?
Yeah, when I say I don't like our team, we've got pieces that are talented and they're attractive, and they can be part of a winning club. But obviously, we haven't been able to go out there and perform. It's not a well-rounded club right now, and so we've got to find players to come in here to help get us in the right direction. And if that means that we use some of the players we have on our club to multiply and not only help us in the near term, but also in the long term as well. So. It's going to take time this offseason to build out this roster, but that's why we're here. At the winter meet or the GM meetings here, and having some good conversations with other clubs and certainly our own group as we set forward for our future here.
Untouchables or not? Any player?
There are no untouchables.
Why does a team like you guys have done for the last few years have talent, have some guys who would rank up probably at their position top 10, top 15, but just does not function as a team? What do you see that's – because the Sox have always been able to identify talent. It seems like the team building has kind of overall missed.
Right. I've said this from the beginning. So much of this is going to start from the top. It's going to start from me, and whether it be players or staff or anyone that's part of this organization needs to know what we're about and where we're moving forward. And we need to really establish the identity of what the White Sox are about. And I feel like that we have lacked that. So I'm set out to do that right now. Eventually these players will go out there and meet expectations, but the ultimate goal is for them to go beyond what the expectations are. That's when you've got a strong culture.
So even though fans may not want to hear this, is identity and culture, obviously you're looking for good players too, but that's part of the process, I'm guessing?
Well, it's establishing, it starts with the infrastructure, right? And when players are in the environment, they're going to feed off of what we're providing. They feed off of each other. So, it's really not the chicken or the egg. It really starts with, with myself and our staff, our coaching staff, our front office, everyone that's involved in setting the tone on what we're going to be.
What's Tony's involvement? What's his role, I guess, with you guys in this group?
Yeah, Tony's advising. He's in an advisory position. That type of experience is invaluable, not only on the team building aspect, but so many little pieces that go into a major league club. There's going to be mentoring with some of our minor league coaches and our players as well. He's an asset, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Is it an official staff position, unofficial advisor, or how would you term that?
I don't know the difference, to be honest, but Tony's going to be around. We're going to use him as a resource.
Is he on payroll yet?
That's, I guess.
I don't know.
Do you have a vision for international scouting strategy that maybe is different than what the club has done the last many years with focus on Cuban players mostly?
Yeah, we're gonna certainly, I would say, attack things a little bit more strongly on the pitching front. There's different ways to kind of allocate your international bonus money. We had a meeting last week with Marco and everyone else in our front office, and we're putting together a strategy. For the White Sox moving forward, but you can expect a different approach.
Jerry talked about wanting to get this thing turned around as quickly as possible, but obviously that doesn't have a number on it necessarily. Is he okay if this turnaround takes a year or more than that to get it to where you guys want it to be?
I think it starts with, it's certainly a measured approach. I want to be very wise on the moves that we make for our 24 team, knowing that where our minor league system is, where our prospects are maturing, certainly our major league players as well. So, it's sometimes more of a methodical approach that needs to take place. But it's tough for me to really go out there and say this is the bar for us next year and this is the bar for the following year. I think more than anything we're just chipping away and trying to improve our roster and really preaching what we're about as a Chicago White Sox organization and getting buy-in from the players and build from there.
You said no untouchables, but Robert obviously is got to be pretty close to what that is. It would take, I would imagine, quite an offer to get you to think about one of the better all-around players.
Louis Roberts, one of the brightest stars in the game. It's not something we're being proactive on. If there's something that makes sense, so be it. But Louis Robert is the guy that you build around.
But you have to listen, obviously, at this point.
Sure, I think I don't want to be short-sighted or closed-minded in any way. And if there's a way to help our ball club both now and in the future, we have to consider that.
1 year into the rule changes that occur throughout baseball, how do they affect the way that you plan to construct your team going forward?
Well, I think, with the shift restrictions for one, defensively, you've got to be a little bit more mindful on who you're putting on the field. Stolen base attempts and successful stolen bases are happening rampantly. And you want to take advantage of that, so you have to be mindful of times of the plate for pitchers, catchers, and their throwing ability. There was a time where maybe that became more secondary, something you didn't focus on, but that is a primary focus. But I think more than anything, it's finding a roster that is more athletic to take advantage of some of the rules that are in place now.
Chris, where you're at as far as changing the makeup of the team and the franchise, would you say that trades more than free agency would be the direction you'd be looking initially? And I'll preface it by saying if there's maybe a free agent out there that fits what you want for the clubhouse, you might be more proactive.
Yeah, it's certainly case to case. We're getting to know the landscape when it comes to both trades and free agency right now. And then, you attack the offseason that way. It could be an offseason where trades are the best way to improve the organization. It also could be a combination of free agents in trade. So, that's why we're here at the GM meetings to figure out what the landscape is.
I think the payroll was... go ahead.
There are a number of coaching additions announced today, just starting with Marcus. Just what are some of these additions bring to the ball club?
Yeah, Marcus... the endorsements for Marcus Timms was impressive. Whether it be players that I spoke to, coaches that have worked with Marcus, front offices, it was just glowing. He's got an incredible ability to relate to all types of players. He's coached in different markets. He's had different types of players with different backgrounds, higher profile, younger players. So, that type of kind of starter skill set, I think, was really important for the White Sox and where we're headed. So that really stood out. We've got Jason Bourgeois doing outfield and base running. Bourge most recently was with the Dodgers as their outfield and base running coordinator. Obviously, the Dodgers have had a lot of success in the development front, certainly in a lot of different aspects of which he's going to be focusing on. Just a talented coach that's going to really help in a lot of different ways. We added Grady Sizemore as well. And going through the interview process, it was very clear, that Grady's going to be able to really connect with a lot of our players. He was a guy that I looked at it with 4 years straight. He had 700 plate appearances for 4 years. To just inject that type of mentality into our ecosystem, so to speak, I think is going to really bode well for us. Drew Butera is one of the bright young coaches in our game that I think is going to be a future manager that's going to take hold of our catching instruction at the major league level. Is going to be very helpful when it comes to game planning and really nurturing the team effort with our pitching group. And then I think, is that covering everyone?
Matt Wise.
Oh, and then Matt Wise. Matt Wise, to get a major league pitching coach of his pedigree now is to assist Ethan, I think is going to be really helpful. They've got a built-in relationship from working with in the past, and it's only going to strengthen the group with Banny involved as well.
Tosar was involved in the hitting element of the staff last year. Does he have a kind of a bigger voice now than last year? How does that dynamic change now?
Yeah, we clearly defined, his role in the hitting world was a priority of ours, and obviously, Marcus is going to be driving the boat when it comes to the hitting, and he and Mike seem to be off to a really strong start and building a rapport and putting a plan together not only for the off season but in season. So he's going to be very complimentary to Marcus and what we're set out to do.
Your payroll was I think roughly 193 a couple years ago, 180 somewhere around that last year. Do you have an idea for this year at this point? Lower, a little bit lower, you think, this year? Or?
It's one of those, we want to identify players that we feel like can help us both short-term and long-term. And when those players, certainly come our way, then we'll make a decision. Obviously, there's a financial component to it that Jerry gets involved in, and we'll continue to have those conversations. There is no set number right now, but right now there's certainly a deeper dive that needs to happen with this club as we improve moving forward.
There was a lot of interest in both Dylan and Eloy at the trading deadline. Would you assume that there's going to continue to be that? I've heard some other clubs saying that they would be interested in both of those players if they become available. Yeah,
Dylan obviously is an established major league starter. He's got front end ability, and there isn't a team that wouldn't want Dylan Cease on the roster. And Eloy is a power bat that any lineup would benefit from having on. So those are those types of moves are under consideration. They are. Once again, if we feel like we can whether it be multiply or strengthen our group both presently and in the future, then we're going to look at that.
Even with you have two starters basically and 3 question marks. So doesn't that make the Dylan Cease question even more difficult or complicated?
It's got to make sense. It does. We have a rotation that needs to fill out. We've got some young arms in our system that are maturing. I don't want to rush them to the major leagues. I think that's unfair to them and unfair to the White Sox. So certainly any return for any player, if we're trying to address the pitching needs that we have, it needs to make sense. So in any deal, filling out the rotation is certainly on the forefront.
How aggressive would you guys be in looking for outside the organization help, given what you just said about the young guys that we've got in the system?
I in terms of outside help, if I still feel I can help our roster both in 24 and beyond, we're going to do that. There's a natural progression that each of these pitchers or anyone else is going to take on. I don't want to rush anyone. I want to put them in a position to succeed. So we're going to be very mindful how we go about this.
So in 1976, Bill Veeck and Roland Heeman set up at a winter meeting in the lobby saying open for business. Would you say that characterizes a little bit of what the White Sox are about these days, that you are pretty much open for business and anything that makes sense for you guys going forward, you'll listen?
Yeah, we're open for business.
Will you be in that lobby at Nashville?
Yeah, I'll be walking through that lobby. I'll grab a coffee in that lobby.
Right.
Put the sign on the desk.
I mean, you are an open book. You've always been a very open person as a player and a front office guy. You don't seem shy of telling people what you guys are thinking and what the truth is.
Well, I quite honestly, it starts with how you build a player, whether it be a front office member or a coach or anyone involved with the organization. If you're going to build a strong relationship with our players, you need to be authentic. You need to be real. You want to be honest. We talked about Tim Anderson earlier. At the end of the year when I sat down with him, I talked through different scenarios. Decision hadn't been made at that time. But I'd like to think that there was an appreciation on his end that I was very open about where the White Sox stand right now. I had my thoughts and ideas, and I think in the end, if you play this out, not only with TA or any of these players, and I take that approach, that it's going to help improve the culture here with the White Sox.
We talked about Tim. What was the process like with Liam and coming to that decision as well?
Yeah, Liam. Obviously what he's been through this past year, this year or so has been significant. That can't be lost. To be able to overcome and come back to the major leagues with the cards that he was dealt. I mean, that's a pretty special accomplishment on that end. And you rewind back and you look at his career. As a failed starter, guy that's bounced around to multiple clubs, and finding his way as a reliever and becoming an elite reliever, and then coming over with the White Sox and helping us win a division, and obviously the health setbacks that he's had. This guy's had to overcome a lot. So that once again that conversation was. A heavy one. It was because of what he's meant to this game, not only the White Sox, but Liam, you talk about an open book. Liam is very much an open book, and it's very easy to talk to, and he understood where we were coming from. And just like TA, if there's a situation that makes sense for both of us, we'd certainly welcome Liam back as well.
Is there interest in maybe being aggressive on that front, given that you could maybe work somehow where he could be a part of the organization and be part of the clubhouse, and then, thinking about 2025 where he could maybe contribute for a full season?
Yeah, I think, we've got so many holes to fill, and, so I think that's more of an ongoing conversation than something that we're just going to jump out and address right away. But the easy thing with Liam is you can pick up the phone at any time and have a very candid conversation. He and I were teammates years ago too, so we've got a deeper rapport than a lot of people. So we'll continue that conversation.
What's the health update on Gregory Santos, and would he be the closer going into spring training?
Yeah, everything's been really positive with how he's feeling, how he's healing. All the testing has been. All the testing has been an indication that he should be on track to come back, and obviously he had a tremendous year for us. It was a great acquisition last offseason, so it would be great to have Gregory back doing what he was doing last year.
There's kind of a rumor floating around that the White Sox have a pretty good sized budget, that payroll's going to be pretty good. Can you address that at all? Is there room to make some bold moves?
Yeah, I think more than anything, this is what I've told our group, that that we need to establish what the White Sox are about from a value standpoint, and we do need to improve our defense. That's going to help our pitching. So, we're going to chip away. We're not operating with one number, so to speak. There's just going to be we've got to be open-minded on how we're going to put this team together. So, and whether that be through trade acquisitions or free agents or a combination of both, we're open to that. But you come to the GM meetings and you start having conversations with other clubs and certainly agents, get an understanding of the landscape, and go from there.
With the rules changes, obviously some teams started running a lot more league-wide, and then you couple that with the Diamondbacks' sort of success in October, the way they played, pressure on teams, good defense, but running a lot. Do you anticipate that trickling to other teams and how they view roster construction, player development, what you acquire, who you draft and develop, maybe looking for that kind of player who fits into that style?
Yeah, I believe so. And you bring up the D-backs, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Josh Barfield over here with his experience experience from the D-backs and what they were able to accomplish over there. But yeah, with the rule changes, it certainly affects different aspects of the game, both defensively, both on the pitching front, and obviously taking advantage of some of these new rules offensively, whether that be finding personnel that can steal bases, take the extra base, and really play with their hair on fire. I think that there's certainly a powerful mentality to that. So just like every year, everyone's looking at the teams that had success in the playoffs and win the World Series, and you try to take the positive takeaways and apply that to what you're doing.
You can look at Colson and see the long-term future of shortstop. For you guys, even shorter than long. But can you look at second base and right field and see similar futures with similar players, or is that something where you guys are going to be looking to go acquire from the outside?
Yeah, there's obviously you talk about Colson and his ability to play shortstop. We've got Brian Ramos that's coming into the system. Obviously he's more third base. There's been some versatility in his bag as well. We don't have anyone internally that is an obvious choice at any of those positions right now. So if that means that we look at the free agent market or working out a trade to help plug those holes, you do that. So we're very open-minded. We've got some players that are moving in our system, but we certainly want that to take a natural course. We don't want to force anything.
A year ago, I think Rick, your predecessor, was saying that Oscar Colas, don't forget about him for possibility at right field. Obviously, he won the job in spring training. A year later, how has Oscar's path kind of changed right now? Yeah,
Oscar, he obviously the talent remains. Everyone has seen the tools and what he's capable of doing. He's got to find a way to play more under control, understand how pitches are attacking him. He's probably best fit in the minor leagues for the time being and using the experience that he had at the major league level to help him in the future. But we certainly haven't given up on Oscar, just because you don't give up on talent like that.
It's nice it's a good thing to hear this emphasis on defense, right? In terms of Colson, guys hitting the heck out of the ball. Defensively, for those of us who haven't seen him, and there's some question yet about whether he can play that position and be a good defensive major league shortstop. What's the assessment there right now?
Yeah, well, there's different styles of playing the position. You look at Corey Seager with Texas, bigger body. Fairly or unfairly, Colson gets compared to him probably just because of the size and being a left-handed hitter. But you look at you go across the diamond with Texas, whether it be Young, Colson, and Semien and Lowe at first base. At least three of those guys aren't the rangiest of defenders, but they make the plays that are supposed to be made. And once Colson is consistent on the routine play, he is athletic. He does show ranging ability, but really it's just having steady defenders across the diamond and all real spots in the outfield as well. So that it allows our pitchers to do a lot more and be more efficient and keep pitch counts down just by attacking the zone, knowing that their defense can make plays.
I think we talked a little bit this Thursday, but does he have that it factor too, Colson, that's just kind of wired a little differently in a good way?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, you don't throw around, I guess the it factor too often, but he's really, maturing. He's got an edge about him. You talk to the coaching staff with the Arizona Fall League, and they all feel that team is really, kind of come under his wing, and that just speaks to the attitude that he brings on a daily basis, and obviously he wants his teammates to do well, because that's why they always want to be around him, and he's got just an infectious way about him. But he's just ultimately just a competitor, and a guy that goes out there and wants to win.
Is being good in Indiana high school basketball more pressure than the major leagues? Maybe even.
Yeah, that's probably a question for him, but that's possible.
What did you see out of Corey Lee during his time up with you guys in his catcher? Another one of those positions that you're.
Yeah, it's certainly an impressive arm. He's got catching and throwing skills. Our pitchers did like throwing to him. He understands the position. With Corey, it's really about, at this point, not only continuing to progress in those areas, but his offensive game as well. He's got to make some adjustments and certainly understand how pitches are going to attack him at the major league level. But there were a lot of positives. I know Pedro and the staff were really happy with Corey and the potential that he brings to the table.
Do you see him as a guy who could be the number one catcher for the entirety of next season, or is he maybe benefit more from having maybe you guys bringing in a veteran and learning a little bit?
Yeah, we'll look at ways to strengthen that position to allow him to feel like we're putting him in a position to succeed. So. He's certainly going to, get his opportunities at the major league level, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to look to improve the position as a whole.
Is it a daunting task when you sit there and you've been in the front office for a while, but first you're on this that you want to add another catcher, you want to add second and short, maybe right, probably 3 starters, depending on what moves you make, and then I would guess always a couple bullpen guys. Is that tough to take a step back and say, okay, but this is all part of the big picture process?
Yeah, you certainly don't want to get lost or overwhelmed with the amount of work that's in front of you, and really you wake up each day and you find ways to improve your ball club. I mean, that's how we're approaching things, and it's one move at a time.
Is that a list that you guys feel that you can complete in one off season, or is it something where it might take 2 winters to get every item checked off your bat?
Yeah, it's tough to answer, quite honestly, because we do have so many holes to fill to be a championship type caliber club, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to make a lot of strides and feel really good about our club, both in 24 and beyond.
I don't know if they asked you, but Oscar Colas, we heard a lot of talk at the end of the year about how he needed just to play. He needed more experience. So could that be where he maybe gets more time at Charlotte before he's considered to come back up and play?
I think he probably benefits with more time at Charlotte, quite honestly, and we hope that he learns from his major league experience, take advantage of the what he had been exposed to, what it takes to be a major league player, understanding how other teams are attacking him, being under control, making good decisions. I think it's important for him to let that play out in AAA.
Josh Barfield pointed to Perdomo, who in 22 I think was one of the worst hitters by numbers in baseball. This year was a key contributor to a World Series team. So guys can make decided jumps. It doesn't have to necessarily be a long road to get to that point.
Yeah, these are ultra talented athletes, and the learning curve is different for each player, but there's a long list of examples of guys that perhaps that struggled at the major league level and made some adjustments, whether it be the off season or in the minor leagues, and quickly rebounded and went out and became the players that people thought that they could become.
You've talked about talented guys that maybe haven't been able to put it together the way you would want to at the major league level. What are your expectations for Yoan Moncada, for Eloy Jimenez, for Andrew Vaughn moving forward, given their the way that their careers have gone at this point?
Yeah, Yoan, you look at the last two plus months of his offensive production, and it was very impressive. So it's really building off of that. Obviously, health is important. He had a back issue that lingered. That seems to be behind him. This is a big season for Yoan. We've seen him at his best. It's just a matter of being consistent with it. Eloy, offensively, he's got power. He's a threat at the plate. Pitchers don't want to face Eloy Jimenez. And he's got a lot riding on this upcoming season as well. So we hope to whether it be with Marcus or some of our new coaches, and help nurture and support what's needed for success. We just had a check-in with him down in the Dominican. He's working his butt off, and I know that he's motivated as well.
What have the conversations been like with other GMs here? How much time is actually spent face-to-face or texting or calls, or what's that been like so far?
I mean, sometimes it's more of a formal sit-down, and you have discussions on ways to improve both clubs. Sometimes it's a little bit more informal and just laying the groundwork for a potential future deal. For me, it's really providing other clubs providing information on where we're at and what our needs are, and to see if we match up.
Talked about the starting pitching needs. I mean, with Michael Kopech and the way that his season went last year, how do you go into this offseason thinking of him? I mean, is he a guy that, do you guys, in other words, are you guys in need of top of the rotation arms, middle of the rotation arms, back of it, just because of him being a little bit more of a mystery of what there?
Yeah, I mean, we Michael did have a successful stretch last year. Obviously didn't finish the way that he would have liked. I know that it's going to be really important for him moving forward to really have a consistent off season. That's why we had the procedure when we did at the end of the year, so he could head home being a healthy player and start his training and work towards being a starter next year. But it would once again be a little bit short-sighted not to be prepared for different scenarios. We believe in Michael Kopech. We've seen him be a productive starter. We've seen him be a productive reliever. I know he and Brian Bannister have a strong relationship that goes back to Boston, and I know that they are continuing to take advantage of that built-in rapport. We've got some pitcher needs, and once again, I think it's important for us to be prepared for a lot of different scenarios for next season.
I know it's November 7th, but do you have a closer in mind? Do you have a guy who you think could be that role? Is it Santos again?
We've got a couple different options. I think it's a little premature to label anyone a closer in early November. It's more than anything, we've got to put together a sound starting staff, and certainly our relievers will come together at the right time.
You said Santos is a normal off-season for him after the problems he had at the end of the season.
Well, he's continuing to rehab, and he feels good. Is trending in the right direction.
We talked about defensively the improvements that need to be made, but offensively, is it more power? Is it on base? What are some of the things that you want to kind of give as far as the coaches trying to get us?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly need to have more competitive at bats. You look at whether it be our ground ball rate, our chase rate. We've got some work to do offensively, and that's certainly why we made a change. Braga and Marcus and Mike now focusing more on the hitting. It's something that is a focal point for us. It's putting together quality at bats. It's nothing profound. It's understanding how pitchers are attacking you, having a distinct plan to attack that pitcher that night.
Are the hitters that are in your lineup currently, the guys we've already talked about, are they capable of executing that plan? Are they capable of making those improvements? Because obviously you're referring to problems that have plagued that lineup for a few years now.
They've shown the ability to do it. They need to be more consistent.
Leisure and this training with all the pitching needs, do they go to camp? What's the outlook for them, I guess, going to camp?
Yeah, both those guys will compete for spots in spring training. Leisure's been out here in the fall league and arguably the best reliever here. It's been really impressive. He's going to prepare to make the team out of the club, and Nick can do the same.
Can you see having a guy in your rotation who has minimal major league starter innings under his belt at this point?
I could see that. Yeah. I could see that. You want to protect some of those young arms, and you want to, once again, put them in a position to succeed. So you want to make sure that they're surrounded and the timing's right for those arms. But we're not going to shy away from an arm just because he hasn't pitched in a major league game yet.
Are there any guys in addition to Mastrini who you would see maybe being in that group that could compete for an opening day job?
I hate to cap anyone. Nastrini is the furthest along of that group. I think in an ideal world, you're looking at guys that are, starting at the upper level of the minor leagues. But Nick is one that we feel like isn't too far off from helping.
Have you seen a different Pedro compared to what you saw last year? Maybe even new. I mean, obviously it's a job he waited for a long time, and then by the end of April he's 7-21, and that's got to be a tough road to go from that point. Have you seen a little different view, a different outlook from him?
Yeah, I mean he's one of Pedro's biggest strengths is being able to self-reflect. Obviously, he came into a new organization. He hadn't managed in the big leagues, but he's got a tremendous ability to look back and perhaps approach situations a little bit differently. He was very good in-game strategies from an in-game strategy standpoint. I felt like that was a strong suit of his. I think that I'm going to be helpful from a leadership standpoint in providing the support. So I can tell that he's ultra motivated to get the White Sox back on track.
If Colson doesn't break camp with the team, would he start in Charlotte? Is that safe to say? Is that the obvious spot for him? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's ready for it.
Yeah, I think so.
What's that next step for Luis Robert? A little bit earlier about it.
Yeah, I mean, Luis, you look at what he provided this year on both sides of the ball. I mean, it was one of the top players in the game. He's fun to watch on a daily basis in center field. I think that there are still some adjustments he can make to be even better there, believe it or not. Offensively, his power, he's tapping into that power potential. I do think he can be a little bit more consistent with his at-bats. I think he does give away still too many at-bats from time to time, but that's me, probably being hypercritical on a player that is one of the best in baseball.
Benintendi was bothered physically last year, pretty much the whole year it sounded like, but what are the expectations for him moving forward? I'm guessing it's something completely different than what you saw in his first year here.
Yeah, I mean, Benny, for one, his bat-to-ball skills are very good. He can put together a quality at bat against both righties and lefties. I know he's really focused this offseason on getting stronger, getting more athletic to help him on the defensive side, and certainly that'll bode well for him in the box. He's excited. He was excited to, get to the finish line, this season and get rolling into his off-season program because he set out he's determined to be an impactful major league player, and I believe that he's got the ability to do that.
You were talking about Andrew Vaughn before, and he stepped into probably, aside from shortstop, maybe the greatest legacy of the White Sox with Frank Thomas, Paul Konerko, Jose Abreu. Do you think sometimes he's kind of unfairly judged, but they expect him to be that guy? And his numbers are pretty good. He also went from the outfield where he'd never played and had to play that for a season to, that he's going to get to that point where people expect him. People want him there now, but he will get there.
Yeah, I mean, we've asked a lot of Andrew. We've put him in the major leagues. Without much minor league time, and then his first taste of the big leagues was playing outfield, and now he's able to just settle in at first base. He's a guy that you look at, whether it be his underlying metrics or just his kind of surface level production. There's a lot to like there. He's another one that's working his butt off this offseason and getting more athletic, more powerful. He's got pretty strong zone awareness. He's got the ability to put together quality at bats. He's got to get back to being being the middle of the lineup type hitter that he can be, and I say that in the sense of be patient with how pitchers are attacking him and take advantage of pitches that he can drive.
With Tim, with the decision that you guys made on Tim, are you not only looking for a shortstop, are you looking for a leadoff hitter also this week?
We're focusing more on the defensive side. Obviously, if someone comes aboard that we feel like can hit at the top of the lineup, that's certainly a bonus. But more, with prioritizing the defensive side, that's the focus, and then we'll put together a lineup that help us win that night.
generally speaking, with defense, what are some of those aspects that you look for that make a good defensive player?
Steady defender, making plays that they're supposed to make. I feel like we've made too many mistakes through the years. So, and when certain plays aren't being made, it's a dramatic feeling for a team. It's dramatic for pitchers. So I really want to just settle that down so pitchers are comfortable attacking the zone and outs are being made where they're supposed to be made.
How important is the connection with the catcher in that too, though? I mean, having the whole thing with pitcher feeling good on the mound, but also, or defense behind it, but also the guy calling the game.
Yeah, it's a vital part. That rapport between the catcher and the pitchers is they call it a battery for a reason. It's a leadership position that needs to understand, game planning. Both pre and making adjustments in game. They need to know when there needs to be a visit to the mound. They need to know when to communicate with the manager, or the pitching coach that perhaps he doesn't have the best stuff, or we need to attack it differently. So you just have to have this this high acumen and understanding of what's happening in the game in front of you, but you also have to have the ability to prepare and handle advanced information and going out there and execute on a nightly basis for those pitchers. And once you get that, once you approach the position that way, that's when you start getting the buy-in from the pitchers.
Question is asked by fans pretty often. So, is Yoan Moncada capable of moving over back to second base if he needs to? If you guys have an opportunity to add a third baseman that fits with what you're looking for, is that something that he can do to fill that need in a different way, or are you leaving him at third base?
I think he is capable of playing different positions. Obviously, he's played some second base with us. I think he's a better third baseman than second baseman. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be some days that perhaps he goes over to second base or plays first base and perhaps even the outfield. We'll do what's best for our club.
Outfield, even with back, that would be possible, you think?
Well, health, health dependent.
Gotcha. Okay.
First base? Did you say first base?
I mean, he's a very good athlete. He is. And if that means that we need to have Yoan be more versatile to help our lineup on a nightly basis, you do that.
Are you done hiring in the front office? Will you make any more hires?
I feel really good about the group that we have. We just hired Paul Janisch. I spoke out the other day and excited about what he's going to bring to the table from the farm director position. Feel pretty good about the group. At this point, I do feel like we're fairly settled both in the front office and obviously with the announcement of the major league staff, and now it's really just continuing to shape the leadership group and going out there and improving our roster.
The last minor league director was a really good guy. I don't know if you know him or not, but are you looking to restructure scouting in the minor league system the way things have been done in the past, and knowing, with that question, knowing that you didn't have full control of everything that went on?
Yeah, there's going to be some philosophy tweaks along the way in terms of the structure. I do feel like we've got a pretty strong structure in place, and obviously there's going to be needed direction on how we're going to attack each draft. But I do feel like we have the personnel in place. I feel strong about Mike Shirley and what he can provide as a scouting director. Marco's had success on the international side. I talked about the focal point of on the pitching side, on the international, in the international department, and then brought in Gene Watson to help on the pro scouting side. So, I know that our group is extremely energized right now. We met last week. It was an enjoyable, meeting. I know that everyone left there having a greater understanding of where we're going as an organization.
Chris, I don't think we've met. David Worrell from Fangraphs.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. When the Red Sox hired Craig Breslow, I wrote a little about it, and I referenced 6 years ago I talk to like 18, 20 people in the sport about are today's analytically inclined players tomorrow's front office executives. And I referenced like Sam Fold and Brandon Gomes, Chris Young, and I didn't mention you because I don't know if you fit in that bucket. So my question is, are you in that bucket?
I, in terms of analytics and integrating it into our organization, it certainly is a priority of mine, without question. I think the work and the output that we have will speak to what bucket you want to put me in. But in regards to utilizing analytics, whether it be in our scouting approach, with our major league roster, in-game. In terms of leveraging situations, it's a huge part of who I am and what we're going to be set out to do. So, but I'll leave it to you on what bucket you want to put me in.
Right. So, compared to when you took the job, have you advanced that part of the org? Like hiring more analysts or changing the focus of the department?
We have. We've added to we're going to continue to add to the group, but most importantly, it's not about how many individuals that are in any department. It's how collaborative you are and how you integrate it into your work.
Right, and one other real quick thing, Scott, and I don't know if this fits into this or not, but right when you mentioned the direction the team is going, somebody followed up on that, but I'm still a little clear, what do you see as the direction? Are you talking more the way you approach building a team, or, the type of team you want?
Yeah, I mean, the direction that we're going, obviously there's the near term and the long term, and there's a certain style of play that we're working towards. Obviously, player acquisition will be a big part of improving our ball club, and how we go about acquiring each player is certainly going to set this direction and team that we have moving forward. So, we need pitchers that can attack the strike zone, can get swing and miss. We've got hitters that know how to work counts, get on base, hit for power, move the ball around. We need players that when they're on the base pass, know how to take advantage of situations that are in front of them, and we need defenders that understand and position themselves well to make outs for our pitchers. So there's obviously a lot of different elements that go into a successful ball club, but from a micro standpoint, it really starts with acquisition and how we prepare our guys moving forward to win a ball game that night.
So the direction is basically to get better in all aspects.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the coaching staff you and Pedro together? Was it mostly Pedro? How did you go about filling the?
We worked together on it.
Okay.
We did. Yeah, we had an interview process that Pedro was involved in. Obviously, myself and others in the front office. So yeah, we communicated throughout the whole thing and made the decisions in the end.
I think all five of them have major league experience. How much is that a factor at all? How helpful is that as well?
It can be helpful. It's not absolutely essential to have major league experience. I do think that in terms of building an initial relationship, it can be a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, if for players to respond to coaches, a lot of it they need to feel like the coach is in their corner, and it's not about the coach; it's about helping the player. Once that's established, it doesn't matter what the background really is. In this case, we've got guys that do have playing backgrounds and the ability to build those relationships, and we ended up with coaches that have some playing background.
Did you think that was an issue last year, or in years past, I should say, guys being receptive to that coaching, particularly on the offensive side?
At times, it's hitting is it changes so quickly, whether it be the personnel that you have. Obviously, pitchers are attacking hitters in different ways, and you need to be not only oftentimes you're reactive in the box, but you need to be proactive in your teachings and preparing them for for future success. So, we identified individuals that we felt like could come into our coaches clubhouse and really impact players. And it's a group of high energy, high acumen, but with the skill set to relate to our players, which is obviously necessary to get anything done.
Just kind of a general question, from a 100,000 feet perspective, watching the Ohtani situation, what are you most interested to see about that? Do you think he sets the market, or do you think he's kind of a unicorn that's totally separate from the market, or just your general thoughts?
I think it's fair to say that he's a unicorn with his skill set. Obviously, he's had the arm injury that it'll be interesting to see how his market plays out because of that. But more than anything, I mean, we're talking about a player that can impact the game in so many different ways. And I know I'm only 40 years old, but I can't point to too many players, at least in my baseball history, that are comparable to Shohei Ohtani and what he's capable of doing.
This is off the field stuff, just because he has such a following in a whole different country. I mean, is that an interesting caveat in those discussions?
It's very interesting, right? Like there's he's obviously got an infectious personality. You could tell that his teammates like him. He's ultra talented and he wants to win. Attributes that certainly make him attractive, to any organization. So, I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Chris, this is a general canvas question. If I had to ask you, out of 30 major league teams, how many of them have starting pitching as the number one target for their organization? How many would you guess?
I would say 30 out of 30.
30 out of 30.
Yeah.
Number one, top of the list.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You were, maybe if I think Chris Young, you know him pretty well.
Sure.
You want to be there. That's the spot you want to be. How happy were you for him?
No, both teams in the World Series. Whether it be the D-backs, and I felt like I started to understand the D-back group more when we brought Josh aboard. So in a way, I was rooting for both, quite honestly, because I do appreciate what the D-backs have accomplished. But with CY, I've got a personal relationship with him. I've been friends with him for years. I've got a tremendous amount of respect. He was very intentional with how he, conducted, his business once he, became, the leader of that organization. It was inspiring. I was really happy to watch that play out, and I look forward to spending more time with CY while he's here.